The second lesson we'd like to share with you is don't judge yourself too quickly. This is a particularly important principle for those of you that are relatively young, say between the ages of 12 and 80. We're going to start with a story. It's 1972, and I'm living in Gainesville, Florida, and I'm running about 100 miles a week. And who moves in next door to me but Frank Shorter? Now, Frank Shorter, for those of you who don't know, was the Olympic gold medalist in 1972, and in fact had just won the Olympic gold medal. He was one of my heroes. And he moves in next door. And my son was equally excited. He's about 3 or 4 years old at the time. And he said, when I grow up, I want to be Frank Shorter. Now, we thought this was good, because up till then he'd said, when I grow up, I want to be God. We thought that was a bit ambitious, but you don't want to discourage the kid. So one day we're out for a run, 26 of us with Frank Shorter. And by the way, I was the 26th slowest and a long way behind Frank Shorter. But we're out for a run, and somebody asked this question, and it's one of those moments. It's one of those moments where you learn something that just changes your life. Someone asked Frank, how did you ever summit the courage to run 200 miles a week for 6 months prior to the marathon? How did you do that? Now, if you don't know much about running, well, to get up to 200 miles a week means you must have started like 8 or 10 years ago building up to that, because your body would collapse otherwise. So how did he ever make the commitment for over so many years to put in so many miles? And he said, it would have been so easy if I'd known I was going to win the race. It would have been so easy if God had landed on my shoulder and said, Frank, you're the man. You go out and put in the miles and you will win the race. But you see, life doesn't work that way. You pay the price, you make the investment, and then you get the return. You find out one way or the other whether you're going to win or lose. You don't know how good you can become until you pay a steep price. Research indicates it takes 10,000 hours of focused hard work to become an expert. There's a great book on this by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. But Frank Shorter told me the same thing in 1972. Don't confuse your lack of knowledge and skills, which can be very real barriers. You need knowledge. Don't confuse those with your potential talent, which is an imagined barrier. Another story. By the time I was 28 years old, I had worked 28 jobs, and I'd put in about 40 hours a week working my whole time through college and largely through high school. I'm not saying that to feel sorry for myself. In another video, I'm going to tell you all the things I learned through those experiences that helped me. But rather, I want to make a point. Because I was spending time working, I just didn't read books, and I didn't go to cultural events. So there were students all around me in college that had knowledge I didn't have. And I made the mistake that many of my students make. You see, at that age, you're looking at this continuum between smart and stupid and trying to figure out just where do you fall. And my perception was I was much closer to stupid than I was to smart. And that's easy to do. I was judging my talent because of my lack of knowledge. Now, what I really was ignorant. When you say someone's ignorant, that just means they have a lack of knowledge. And I had a lack of knowledge, and I had to compensate for that. And it took many years. It takes about 10,000 hours of investment, but you know what? There's not much downside here. You can become very proficient, even if you later discover after you put in your 10,000 hours that you don't have the genes to be the very best. You're going to be real good, and you're going to get rewarded. The downside's relatively small. Often students come to me, especially undergraduate students, and they just lack this confidence. Oh, so many times they come in after they've done poorly on an exam, and they'll say, I'm just not as smart as the next kid. So-and-so is so much smarter. And I always say the same thing. You may be dumb, but I don't believe that. Not yet. When you put in the 10,000 hours, well, then we can come to some conclusion one way or the other. So the central lesson of this video is don't walk away from opportunities too soon because you judge your talent too quickly. Pay the price, make the investment, and then see how well things turn out. And they won't be that bad if you pay a steep enough price.